welcome to today's deep dive. We're going deep on this one, Red Dead Redemption.
Oh, yeah.
Not just the game, but like the whole world behind it.
Yeah.
The impact, all of it. You guys sent over like a ton of excerpts from Wikipedia.
Right.
And I'm ready. Let's do it.
It's really interesting going beyond just playing the game because there's so much like cultural impact and stuff like that surrounding the game, which is really fascinating.
For sure.
There's so many different ways we can take this.
Okay, so to set the scene, you're dropped right into 1911. The American frontier is like changing, right? The Wild West is fading.
Oh.
And in rides John Marston, our main man, this former outlaw, trying to escape his past, but, you know, the past has a way of catching up, right?
Always does, yeah. And the developers at Rockstar, it wasn't by accident they chose 1911. That was a very deliberate choice that impacts everything.
Okay. I'm intrigued. What's so special about that year?
Well, if you think about it, it was kind of this like pivotal moment.
Yeah.
Like the Wild West that we think of, cowboys and outlaws.
Yeah. Yeah. It was giving way to like the new century.
Right.
A more modern world.
The modernity, yeah.
And so you have that clash between the old and the new, and that is like woven into the very fabric of Red Dead Redemption.
Oh, so it's like John Marston, he's not just battling his own demons, but he's like caught in the middle of this like larger shift that's happening all around him.
Exactly. And that's what makes the themes of like redemption and the cycle of violence, masculinity even.
Right.
It makes them hit even harder because they're set against this backdrop of change.
Oh, that's brilliant. It's like those themes are timeless, right? But by putting them in this specific context, this historical context, they take on like even more depth, you know?
Yeah.
It's not just to shoot them up at that point. It's like making a statement.
Absolutely. And speaking of making a statement, the detail that Rockstar put into making this world is insane. They basically time traveled back to 1911.
Seriously. And from what I've read, they went all out.
Like trips to DC, digging through archives, old photographs. They even like watched a bunch of classic Westerns to like really get the look and feel of that era.
Totally.
Man, talk about dedication.
Well, that's what it takes to make a world feel real.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's so incredible about Red Dead Redemption. It's not just a pretty backdrop.
Yeah.
It feels like a living, breathing world.
And that level of immersion, like how, I mean, we're talking about a massive game world.
Right.
Tons of characters, dialogue. It's got to be, like, how much work went into that?
Well, we have a 1,500-page script, so that should give you an idea.
What?
Over 450 characters.
Oh, my gosh.
Brought to life with motion capture, which, you know, that was still pretty groundbreaking back then.
Oh, 1,500 pages. That's like a novel.
Yeah.
And the motion capture thing, yeah, you can tell.
Yeah.
Like the characters move so much more realistically, and it adds to that whole immersive thing.
It makes a huge difference. And yeah, so that adds to the realism. But we also have to remember all of this, the detail, the innovation, it didn't come without a cost.
Oh, right. There were some reports about the working conditions, right, during development.
Yeah, unfortunately, there were allegations of like crunch time, excessive hours, low pay. So it's just, you know, it's a good reminder that even amidst these incredible artistic achievements, there are real people working on these games, putting in the time and making sacrifices. And it's a conversation the industry's still having to this day. So
it's a good point. Like, as blown away as someone might be by Red Dead Redemption, it's important to remember the human cost, you know?
Yeah.
And it's complex.
Yeah, there is no easy answer for sure. But it's something to keep in mind and to think about.
It is.
But even with that in mind, what they accomplished, the artistry and the craft, it's undeniable.
Totally. And you know what else struck me reading all this? Just the sheer ambition of it all. Like, they didn't just want to make another Western. They wanted to make, like, an experience that would stick with players long after they put the controller down.
They did. They really did. And speaking of experiences, like actually playing Red Dead Redemption, that's something else. It's not like you're just along for the ride.
Yeah.
You are John Marston.
You feel it.
Making choices that really impact the game.
Yeah. And it's not just about the story. It's how you experience that story through the gameplay, right?
Right.
And speaking of gameplay, oh my gosh, they nailed it.
Yeah.
The mechanics.
Feels so good to play.
Oh, the horseback riding alone? It's so natural. It's so fluid.
It really does give you that feeling of like freedom, you know, being able to just ride across this massive expanse of wilderness. And it's not just about looking pretty either.
Right.
Although it does that well too.
It does.
The mechanics tie back to the themes, you know.
Right.
Even something like combat.
Oh, yeah.
Like the gunfights.
Yeah.
From like the classic standoffs.
Yeah.
To like full-on shootouts.
Yeah.
It's always thrilling. It's exciting.
But it's not mindless, especially with that Deadeye system.
Oh, yeah. And Deadeye is not just like a cool gameplay thing. It plays into that whole like romanticism of the gunslinger.
Totally.
It lets you live out that power fantasy.
It does. It's like slowing down time.
Yeah.
Lining up your shots.
Totally.
Yeah.
Bam, bam.
Yeah. But then it also makes you deal with the consequences.
Right.
Because,
Because even in this virtual world, you're still you're taking lives.
Right.
It's intense.
It is, yeah. And that ties directly into the honor system.
Oh, yeah.
Which it's not just about being good or bad. It's like this constant thing, where the game is forcing you to make choices that have weight to them.
Yeah.
And then you see how those choices actually affect the world.
Right.
And the people around you, how they react to John. And it really makes you question, like, what does it even mean to be good? Especially for someone like John Marston, It's like his past is always there, no matter how hard he tries to, like, run from it,
Right.
He's trying to make amends. He's trying to find redemption. But it's never easy.
Never easy.
And that's something I think a lot of people can relate to, that struggle for, like, second chances.
Totally. And it's made even more impactful by the fact that he's doing this for his family.
Of course.
He's trying to break free from this cycle of violence so he can build something better for them. And it adds another whole layer to the journey.
For sure. For sure. And speaking of layers,
yeah,
the music
Oh.
in Red Dead Redemption
Yeah.
chills every time.
The soundtrack is amazing.
It's not just background music.
Wow.
It is an integral part of the experience.
It's almost like a film score in a lot of ways.
Right.
It's so good. It like swells at all the right moments, dips down at all the right moments. It really knows how to like heighten the emotion. And it wasn't like pulled from a library somewhere. It was all original music composed for the game.
Which is insane.
I know.
Like the fact that they went that extra mile
Yeah.
to create something so special.
Well, it paid off.
And it did.
Yeah.
Because it's so memorable. Like that scene
Oh, tell me.
when John Marston enters Mexico for the first time.
Yeah.
And that Far Away by Jose Gonzalez is playing.
Yes.
Oh, magic.
Pure magic. It sets the mood perfectly.
It does.
You can feel the weight of everything,
Yeah.
the journey ahead, the uncertainty, but then there's also hope there.
Yeah.
It's storytelling through music at its finest.
Absolutely. And that brings us to the game's legacy, which is, it's massive.
Yeah.
It wasn't just a critical and commercial success. This game pushed boundaries
It really did.
for what a video game could be,
Yeah,
especially in terms of storytelling.
totally. And it proved that you could have like amazing action
Right.
and a compelling story,
Right.
but also like something to say
Yeah.
about the world, all in one package.
They did it all.
Yeah.
And they really did it all. It really set like a new standard for narrative-driven games.
Yeah.
And it really stuck with people.
It did.
I still hear folks talking about Red Dead Redemption all these years later. Like, it was an experience, not just a game they played,
And that's what makes it perfect for a deep dive.
Yeah.
It's more than just like the sum of its parts. There's so much to unpack
Right.
about the themes, the commentary.
So for someone listening who hasn't played Red Dead Redemption yet, what
Yeah.
would you say is, like, the core idea they should walk away with?
That's a great question. I think Red Dead Redemption at its heart is about the allure, but also the danger of the myths we tell ourselves.
Yeah.
The Wild West, for all its romance,
Yeah.
was a time of brutal violence and upheaval.
Right.
And the game doesn't shy away from that.
It doesn't.
It makes you confront the cost of that lifestyle,
Right.
of chasing redemption in a world where the lines are blurry,
Totally.
between right and wrong.
And it's like, even though it's set, over a century ago, those themes
Right.
still resonate now, We're still
yeah.
dealing with violence, justice,
Yeah.
and people really change.
For sure. And for the folks out there who have played it, I think this deep dive is a chance to really appreciate the depth and the artistry that went into making it,
Totally.
From the historical detail to the soundtrack.
Oh, yeah.
Every element is working together to tell this incredible story.
It sticks with you.
It does.
And it's that attention to detail,
Yeah.
that willingness to like really dive into these complex themes
Yeah.
that elevates it beyond just a game,
Absolutely.
It's an experience.
It is. It is. And it leaves us with so much to think about, even after the credits roll.
Right.
This idea that the Wild West is fading away, being replaced by something new, kind of makes you wonder, like, how much has really changed, you know?
Wow.
Are we
Yeah.
still dealing with the same problems? Just in different forms.
Okay, now I need to go back and play it again.
Right.
With, like, fresh eyes. Listeners, if you haven't experienced Red Dead Redemption,
Yeah,
I highly recommend it.
do it.
And if you have, I hope this deep dive has given you kind of a new way to think about it.
Yeah.
A new perspective on a truly amazing game. Until next time, thanks for diving deep with us.